Our next presentation today and panelist is from Angelo Rao. He is the City of Lakeland Traffic Operations and Parking Services Division Manager. He has an interesting story with his parents never having driver's license and with their combined age of 182 and growing up in downtown Toronto, Canada, Angelo truly learned to walk the talk by walking. With a combined 40 years of public and private sector service, Angelo understands the special needs of the public. He has personally attended and or chaired over 600 public meetings with a view of reaching consensus within these communities for implementing lasting solutions for all transportation users. Angelo is a 1980 graduate of the University of Toronto with a degree in civil engineering. Angelo also loves to cook, with no one dying yet from his meal preparation. Thank you so much. Welcome, Angelo.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Great presentations. Really enjoying the different perspectives. We're going to be demonstrating a little bit of a different perspective in that we don't even have a direct policy, let alone ordinance or anything like that in terms of e-vehicles in any shape, be it e-bicycles or e-scooters. So I thought I'd share a different perspective and see if we can have a conversation about that. Okay. There we go. So we are right smack dab in the middle of Orlando, and well, I call Orlando our big brother and Tampa our big sister, about 45 minutes from each other. There's Polk County right in the middle, and there's Lakeland. We are on the western edge of Polk County, basically on the east side of Hillsborough County. So exit 28. I always say to people, come on down exit 28, come see me, I'll buy you a coffee. We'll show you the downtown. It's pretty unique. So as I was saying earlier, it's a bit of a different perspective here. And I'm an old guy, as you could tell by the 1980 graduation. This is what Lakeland used to look like in 1952. There's a big cake demonstration off of Publix. Publix is our biggest customer. Probably Lakeland wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Publix and a few rail lines. And now it's a city of about 110,000 people. That's the kind of demonstration that we love to see in Lakeland. People, and particularly as pedestrians. And you'll see that's kind of the theme of my presentation today, that we prioritize pedestrians almost to a T. And you'll see a little bit more in the next few slides. So again, all about people. This is a demonstration of kind of our First Friday events that now we're just about getting back into based on not being able to do that with COVID during the summer. But it really is about people, and we'll move on a little bit more here. And you can go show all three, please. Thank you so much. Quality of life is so important to us, and so is it to the other presenters. I know they've demonstrated that with their slides, how important it is to really demonstrate that it's about living in one city and how you enjoy it as families and partners in the city. So we look at quality of life as number one. We want to have a growth management that is back to livability, not rampant growth that sort of focuses on asphalt and concrete and creates more of a mix to promote future development. And we look at it as sort of saying, hey, if we could get people, not necessarily cars in the downtown experience particularly, we want to bring people particularly on foot, because it's those people that from an economic development perspective, they're bringing wallets downtown and sort of spending and helping the economic vitality and therefore the longevity of downtown. And we're going to be talking mostly about downtown today. So here's my, we'll just, if you could just go back a little bit there, please. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, the first one, thank you so much. I appreciate the assistance, Angelo. Well, by the way, we're both members of the Florida Bicycle Association, and we're both named Angela and Angelo, And just to make it worse, we both have the same initials, Ryan and Rao. So it's kind of, when we have our meetings, it's interesting how we communicate with each other. But thank you, Angelo, for your team spirit here. So we prioritize vulnerable users as our number one top priority. And I'm talking about folks that have some accessibility needs, children, the elderly. We cherish their presence and go out of our way to ensure that their presence is like I say, prioritized. In the next slide, in the next group, we ratchet it down to pedestrians, shall we say, that don't need accessibility, don't have accessibility needs, perhaps are someone might say less vulnerable in their ability to experience the right of way. Next click, please. Then bicyclists, interestingly enough, in terms of their, and with each segment here, each reducing element, we expect a higher degree of respect for that element above them. And that's how we operate here in Lakeland. And the next one, transit patrons, in terms of prioritizing the transit experience here in Lakeland through our partners at Citrus Connection. And then the next one, trucks. And then the next one yet, the single occupied vehicle. I haven't made this up. This has been around for decades. This, I think some folks call it the inverted pyramid or fancy names like that. Why I wanted to spend a few minutes on this is just to demonstrate that we strongly feel that this hierarchy of transportation user is critical to the vitality of Lakeland. What's interesting is that we are a very car-centric city. And that's this sort of dichotomy that we're a car-centric city, and yet we have this fundamental belief that pedestrians, and particularly vulnerable pedestrians, come first at all times. So it's an interesting challenge that we have. And so when I hear the conversation around from other presenters about e-bicycles and e-scooters, I'll be honest, I'm a little jealous, because it's great to see that these other communities have gotten to that point of having other types of transportation modes as part of their infrastructure and ability to get around town. So it's just quite fascinating to see that kind of difference. And the next slide, please. So we strongly understand how e-bikes, e-scooters, and those types of, so I think others mentioned bike share. We had a bike share program, and quite frankly, it didn't do very well. We weren't able to motivate folks enough to use them in a profitable way for their own needs. Again, we're a car-centric city, and that's our biggest challenge, is to change that mode right from the top. So we get it that's important. We know that it's a relatively cost affordable and therefore more equitable. It's interesting. I'm a big believer in innovation, and particularly disruptive innovation. You've heard that term, but we're big believers, or at least I am personally, in the classical definition of disruptive innovation. And that is, classically, it's not about changing business models so that you kind of take out the competition. No, it's primarily about making it affordable, equitable, and accessible for as many people as is feasible. That's the true classical definition of disruptive innovation. If it so happens to be that while doing that sort of the status quo competition can't seem to keep up, and then therefore they may dwindle, well, that's not the fault of the innovation. So I just want to make that clear. And we strongly believe in that affordability, equity, and accessibility for as many users as feasible. And this is interesting too, because that pyramid structure I just talked about a moment ago, e-scooters and e-bikes, as we're talking about today, may not be congruent with our values about prioritizing pedestrians. We worry about the interaction on sidewalks. We worry about folks, will they be on the street or not? And how will they interact with our most precious priority in terms of transportation? So it's just interesting to us in terms of, and what I've learned today from the other presenters, that maybe there's some hope here. Maybe we need to rethink this. And I'm thanking the other presenters for showing us a little bit of the light on possibility of expanding our consideration. And I think the final point here, and certainly we're open to these kinds of methods. And gosh, I've really had my eyes open today in terms of seeing other users and how they've been able to mix in an appropriate way the balance between e-bicyclists and other users, like the vulnerable users that I talked about. So briefly, I think that's all I really have in terms of my presentation. And I'm certainly interested in answering any questions, or certainly working with the other panelists to answer some questions. Thank you again, Angela, and thank you, rest of the panelists, for great presentations.